Celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real Podcast, because wrestling needs us. Time for another Wrestling is Real Podcast. This is KOP. We are rocking into a second half of July that looks spectacular. Really great stuff. And I know there's other things we're going to talk about tonight when it comes to Sasha Banks, when it comes to Vince McMahon, that are also going to be front and center. That's kind of the main part. But I have to give some good news when it comes to the fact that we got 3 more pay-per-views coming up this month that are stellar. I'm like so excited for the Ring of Honor show for Dishonor. That's coming up next week. And that's next Saturday, by the way. So you know that yours truly is going to be doing a show for that right here, WrestlingIsReal.com. And then the following week, okay, the end of July, we're going to have to do 2 nights. I am not doing like I normally would do. Ric Flair's last match, July 30th. Oh, sorry, it's, let me make sure I got this right. Sunday, July 31st. Correct. Correct me. I just need to make that correction. So we'll have SummerSlam on July 30th on the Saturday. And then Ric Flair's last match on the 31st, Sunday. And the card, I mean, the Ric Flair's last match card, it's not even about Ric Flair that makes this so exciting. Listen, I'm glad to see Ric Flair. Go ahead and get him out there for a match, whatever that's going to be. But the card they have put together for this show is massive. And the fact they put so many different organizations together, from Impact, from MLW, I mean, it's just, oh man, this is so good. Really, really good stuff. And also a number of, we have some New Japan stars. We have some people from AAA. There's just so much here that is amazing what they're going to put together tonight. And I just saw the Control Center come up now with David Crockett doing announcements regularly. And, whatever they're doing for this show, they're doing a good job of promoting it. David Crockett's getting interviews. Ric Flair's been going out there. Conrad Thompson, the StarCast, is coming out there. And I'm wondering, because StarCast was a vehicle that Conrad Thompson wanted to put out there, was doing it for the AEW shows. And now that he doesn't have All Out to do this at, or any other AEW shows he used to do it at, if they could put Jim Crockett Promotions out up there again, and Jim Crockett Promotions can start putting out some regular pay-per-views, I'm curious about that. Because then, if you look at Ric Flair's last match, if they're able to put together and promote this caliber of a show, it's a stacked card. Stacked card. It's great. If you give me these kind of shows on a regular basis, like give me this like every quarter, and then say like the Crockett Cup, NWA already has that event. If there's a collaboration with NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions, if I could be in the ear of Billy Corgan, William Patrick Corgan, I'd say, listen, look at the caliber of what's being done with this show. It's not a bad idea. I know you don't want to collaborate so much with, Impact, you're not doing it so much. With AEW, not so much. But you could do something here where you could do a collaboration with NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions, JCP, and put some together here. Because we know the lineage of the NWA goes through Jim Crockett Promotions anyway, through Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, and then through World Championship Wrestling before it got switched off in the 80s by Ted Turner. So my thing is, 3 great pay-per-views coming up. It's SummerSlam I'm going to put in that same category. There's some good matches that we had. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind seeing Brock and Roman one more time. I don't see, if we're going to have Street Profits and the Usos one more time, that's fine too. So that's all good there. And then there's other matches to come up, and let's see how they work out and they do. Liv and Ronda will do another rematch. We know about that. Lashley and Theory will do another rematch. That's fine. Like, there's nothing overly crazy, but I don't know how they're going to fill out Nissan Stadium. That's the only thing I'm wondering, is that's a pretty big stadium to fill up. Are they going to be able to do what they can? Like, I just don't know what they can do about it. But either which way, great stuff to be had overall. I'm really enjoying what they're doing right now. So you got Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor, SummerSlam, Ric Flair's last match. Quick reminder once again, I will do a post show for SummerSlam on Saturday night, the 30th. and I will do a Ric Flair's last match post-show for the 31st. You know I'm going to do that. And then I can't even mention about August, which we haven't even talked about that yet, because then going into that, you have the 74th anniversary show for the NWA, which is going to be held August 27th and 28th. You got that coming up. That should be also pretty spectacular what they're doing. I want to make a mention of that, where there is now a tournament on NWA Power and NWA Power. William Patrick Corgan made the announcement that they're going to have 8 wrestlers in a tournament to vie for who's going to go after Trevor Murdoch, who is now the NWA's World's Heavyweight Champion. We're going to see where they're going to go with that. And so far, Mike Knox and Tom Latimer have advanced to the semifinals. Brian Myers, Nick Aldis have advanced to the semifinals. That must have happened on Power this week, which I haven't had a chance to watch because I don't have all access. But they already had that so far. And Nick Aldis took on Tim Storm originally. And, they, for what they have on the roster, it's something we wanted to do here to go and give some proper opponent, because down the line, I know that they're going to have Matt Cardona come back from injury, and we'll go back and try to go ahead and go after the World Heavyweight title, whoever holds that belt. But yeah, if you need to put somebody up there that might be the odds-on favorites, I can see where Tom Latimer and Nick Aldis take on each other, and that will be the match that comes up. I don't think it's Mike Knox, and I don't think it's Brian Myers, but we'll see what they do with that. But you got that coming up in August. And then also Impact has their Emergence show coming up. And then so much of September, when you have the Arthur Ashe show, or the show at the US Open Center, New York Grand Slam for Dynamite, then Clash at the Castle for WWE in Cardiff, Wales. There's a lot left to go. I mean, really, it's such a good time for wrestling. And then it sucks to go and talk about some of these stories that continue to be hampering and continue to be headlining throughout the Western world, and I hate it. But what are we going to do about it? It just keeps coming up, and I can't just sit and just sleep on it because I know things are going to happen. There's just not much that I can do about it. But a couple things have happened since we last talked and we gathered here on the show. So starting off with Mercedes Varnado. I'm guessing it's Spanish, right? Well, the former Sasha Banks, which from now on we're going to refer to her as Mercedes Varnado because that's who she is now. Pretty obvious. We're not going to see her back in WWE. We don't know what we're going to see in terms of seeing her come back into wrestling overall. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I have no clue. But when it comes to where I see things now with what's going on with Sasha and Naomi, I don't know. But what I do think is we're not going to see much of anything going on. Now, remember, let me just remind you, I did do a show about Sasha and Naomi back in May when this all happened. And when it did, it's like, okay, what are you going to do? We know that this is all happening up here. It sucks. The Monday Night Walkout, that was episode 692 from May 19th. We talked about it extensively. And I made my point across very clear, pretty extensively. We know that Sasha Banks can find her career in Hollywood and she can be doing other things because the Comic-Con she's going to be at, it's not so much for her wrestling career that she's going to be there, but for her work in The Mandalorian, among other things. And doing the autograph front will do well for her if that's something that she wants to do for now. And in the meantime, she still gets herself out in the public eye. But there's a lot of options for her where she can go with things. When I look at where she is right now in the current mix, keep this in mind too. She doesn't necessarily have to continue to keep going. Okay? She could very well decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get myself over to, I'm going to continue to do my work in Hollywood because that's what she wants to do. Because right now, she's 30 years old. That's not old in any stretch of the imagination. She definitely doesn't look 30 years old. She looks great. Always looks great. But she was at it for 12 years. coming up in August, it will be 12 years of her career, which initially started in FCW and then to NXT, then to the WWE. So right now, we can wait. I mean, she doesn't have to continue her wrestling career. What else does she have left to accomplish? We've talked about this. And I'm still asking myself, what is there left for her to accomplish in the wrestling ring? To go conquer another organization? At this point of her career, I don't think it matters. She can very well do and follow the same path, because what I also haven't noticed either is with her, you look at who's out there in terms of the stars that have been big male stars that have come from that pipeline into Hollywood from WWE. Cena did it. Rock did it. Batista did it. Why not Sasha Banks? Why not Mercedes Varnado? Why can't she go on that same route? She could definitely go that route. Because if she can't use her name, the Sasha Banks name is synonymous with her, and it's trademarked with WWE, so she can't use it. And do we want to go and see her out there trying to replicate the boss character somewhere else? I would think she'd have to change that up. I don't think we need to go and see the boss character somewhere else. The blueprint. We don't need to see that somewhere else. So I'm under the impression that I don't need to see Sasha Banks, the former Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado, back in a ring anytime soon. She doesn't have to. She could very well do whatever she wants, because she can claim a lot of money for her to go wrestling somewhere else. I don't see her going into the indie circuit. I don't think so. Just too much prestige. And will AEW want to pick her up? Yeah, they could do that, but that's a lot of money to put on her to bring her in. Plus, they have to understand, too, that she's going to have Hollywood calling her. And I really believe that. So when you look at things, I mean, there's just so much upside for her to go outside of what she's doing. She still says she's a professional wrestler, but she has such a long stretch of things that are going on in her career. The Mandalorian opened the door for many things. Okay? She's got 5.5 million followers on Instagram. She has an audience out there who will follow her. She threw out a first pitch at Fenway Park recently. She's on top of the world. There is nothing now that she has to worry about where she's going to be doing anything. I mean, she's done what she's wanted to do. She's kept herself out of the public eye for a little while. And where things are right now, I just think that there's so much with her that is going on in terms of endorsements and in terms of what she can be doing with herself outside of everything. There's just so much that can be happening. And she doesn't have to be in this mix. She could very well be out doing something else. And I believe it. So I'm going to continue to keep saying that whatever is going to happen with her, she's going to just continue to go out and do what she wants to do. So she's going to go into the C2E2 convention next month in Chicago. Her first public appearance since her removal from programming in May. So that made a lot of news. Justifiably so. We still don't have any official confirmation on her release. That hasn't happened yet either. But we know that she's going to be out there. She's going by her given name, Mercedes Varnado. And whether you've seen her in the ring or as Casca Reese in The Mandalorian, you don't want to miss out on the photo and autograph opportunity. So she's promoting the fact that she was a wrestler. No mention of a former WWE superstar, because they can't say that yet either, because the announcement hasn't been made. And for the photo op with her, $90, at table autograph, $70. She's going to make a killing out there. Good for her. A lot of fans will want to go see her and catch up with her where everything's gone. But there's more for her to come up anyway. Remember, she also had eye surgery. She had other things she was doing in the meantime. And everybody wants to go and see that she's going to just continue to be here and there's nothing more. But like I said, and so we don't have to worry about what's going to happen going forward. People are going to go ahead and follow along with her career wherever she goes. And I think it's going to be better off if she continues to go forward into doing something in Hollywood. For a lot of reasons. Let's just say it like that. Now, she did say before this all happened that she wanted to be on the same posters as John Cena and The Rock. Got it. But she's hit the main event level. Sure, you want to talk about her career in terms of how many times she lost at WrestleMania? I got it. But there's been many reports going back about a month ago, epicstream.com reporting that she might be on the verge of crossing over to Hollywood. And Becky Lynch was also in that same point, where Becky Lynch was actually, there was some rumors that she was going to join the MCU. But we don't know what's going to happen overall when it comes to what any of the female wrestlers are going to be doing moving forward when it comes to where they could go in Hollywood down the line. But as we talked about, there was definitely plenty of places for her to go. Plus, she's got family that's major celebrity. So if there's projects she wants to go and work on, she's got her own name for herself. So it doesn't matter what she decides to do. But there's been too much friction that's going on with her backstage for whatever reason, because we don't know the whole story. So she could be thought of as difficult to work with if she comes into AEW, which is the only other place she can go. I don't expect New Japan to come in and talk to her, or, you know, some other deal going to come in. Jeannie Buss is not going to come in and say, hey, come and be our featured star and wow, superheroes. No, that's not going to happen either. So we're not going to worry about that part. And I don't think that's going to happen. But like I said, I've gone extensively about that story. Episode 692, take a listen to it, and you'll find out everything I said about Sasha and Naomi. Naomi's also been very cryptic in some messages about where she is right now and what her status is with the company. We don't know what that's going to be yet either. We don't know yet. So let's talk about what Naomi actually put, because she has actually made some other comments out there. We can talk about that real quick. From WrestlingGeek.com, she took to Twitter earlier today with a message hinting her apparent issues. So they're cryptic, without any particular mentioning of where things were. She's saying that, quote, anything that costs you your peace is too expensive. Unknown. So, unknown quote, which could be her, we don't know. Then she put another comment early on the weekend on her Instagram page saying that, quote, the moment you put a stop to people taking advantage of you and disrespecting you is when they define you as difficult, selfish, or crazy. Manipulators hate boundaries. We can pretty much kind of take those messages and take them as a fact that, you know what? There's something behind where she is with everything going on with her status with the company. And her and Sasha, or her and Mercedes, just got fed up. And their contracts are up. And I'm sure there's a lot of that going on. We understand. The environment that is that entertainment company that is WWE is very toxic. We understand that. Misogynistic, yeah, we get all those things. And so there's a lot of things getting in their minds where they're saying, listen, they probably might not have been treated as well. And I think the other thing, too, is that the evolution, when you look at what happened with Paige leaving, or now we call her Saraya, you remember she left and she was very instrumental of being part of that women's evolution. And give the women a chance. And all that going on, or give the divas a chance. Remember that hashtag back in the day? These things going on right now. Remember the women that are on the roster now? We are seeing a transition out of certain wrestlers that were part of that evolution, and we're starting to see more divas again. Now, divas that are athletic, because when you look at what they have down in NXT, Mandy Rose would definitely fit the diva role, even though she was a fitness model. They said that the same thing could be said with Tiffany Stratton. I mean, there's others that are in here in the same way where that diva kind of feel might be coming back in. And you never know when the Bells are coming back. They've talked about coming back as well. So the way things are being perceived right now, it's a bit different. And who knows where women's wrestling goes because of the losses of a number of the wrestlers they already have right here with Naomi, Paige, Mercedes, formerly Sasha, all those things. So there's a lot there that can be said about this, and it's unfortunate, but that's where things are right now with the both of them. It's just really, I don't know where Naomi's going to go. With Naomi, it could be a lot of things she could be doing because, I mean, she still is attached to the Uso family, and who knows where else. But, I mean, I've said all this before. Well, what else am I going to say about this particular issue? I'm just move along. So let's move along into Vince McMahon and the fact that they continue to go ahead and go after him. I will continue to say, look, you're telling me that all this couldn't have been found out sooner? That we didn't know that this guy, that Vince McMahon might have been misogynistic, that might have been putting out hush deals, that might have been fraternizing with the opposite sex, whether they were coworkers or there were talent under his wing that he was paying under contract? You tell me that's not happening? Come on. Because he hasn't been necessarily, there's infidelity, but you know what? He's not necessarily in some, loving, amazing marriage with Linda. That we know that for sure. So right now, Wall Street Journal is being fed information. We got it. I went on a tirade about this a few weeks back when the story first came out. The same two writers that I talked about extensively, Joe Palazzolo, Ted Mann, and now there's Joe Flint, who's also part of this story. And Joe Flint, just to give his background, he does media entertainment reporting for the Wall Street Journal in Los Angeles. So these are the three that are now talking about this story, the newest story when it comes to Vince McMahon. As I said, it's only the Wall Street Journal that's getting this information, and they're getting fed the information. They're getting leaked information. What I'd love to know is who it is that's leaking to them. Because sure, Joe, Ted, and Joe, they might have had 100 people to call, but are they giving them this information themselves? They wouldn't have a story if they didn't have somebody that was probably internal that's being fed information from the outside portion of the board of directors that are trying to go and do some kind of a takeover to get Vince removed. There's apparent attempt to remove him. If you didn't get him before, what makes you think you're going to get him now? And it's these stories that continue to be smear pieces, which, by the way, Wall Street Journal, these reporters were on Busted Open. They were upset that the story didn't get more traction by the other mainstream outlets. Yeah, because when nothing was going to happen, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get much out of the story. Well, now, the NDA agreements mean nothing because the information got out there. But the NDA agreements, I guess, they're holding with the fact that these women that were paid off, according to the story. Now, I'm not going to deny what they're saying right now in terms of the information being leaked, but it's not been codified. It hasn't been evaluated, right? They're just taking everything as fact. But we still don't see the documents. We don't see anything about it at all. And that's the part I'm still very much concerned about. And the fact that everybody's taking this all as complete truth. Just because it's Wall Street Journal. And I can't do that. I'm not going to let myself get to that point. I'm still not at that point. And I'm not using this as a platform for the guy to go. If he's going to go, he's going to go. But it will be on his terms. And for those of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren that think he's going to go, he's not. He will go when he wants to go, when he's damn well ready. So for everybody expecting him to go away, I'm not completely perturbed about the fact that he has not been let go yet. The fact that he did step down, but the nepotism is still in place because Stephanie is still in charge and he's still head of creative. So we don't know where they're going to come up with it next. But look, we did have Me Too. We also had Time's Up. We had a lot of different times where wrestling had the opportunities for women to take the groundswell of effort to start calling out their attackers or abusers, those that violated their space, those that, did things to them improper or unprofessionally. That could have all happened, but that didn't happen either. So you have to understand that these women also took payoffs. Yes, I understand that with women, it's going to be a tough break because if they do talk, the stereotypes, the narrative that can be put out there for them and being put down, that's horrible. And unacceptable. This behavior is unacceptable. I'm not judging that part. I'm just saying you could have talked about this when all these things were going on 10 years ago, or even more than that. And now we're waiting until 2022. So obviously, what is there, some statute of limitations we don't know about? What's being taken to court yet? And by the way, have we still heard anything yet from Jerry McDevitt, from the legal team for this? We might have, I want to know in the story here, this latest story they put out, July 8th, Wall Street Journal. We're going to go through this story now. And I just want to identify certain things as to if they've actually taken any time to corroborate. What a great word for journalists. There's a reason why the Pew Research Center now says that Americans' trust in journalism and the media is down to 11%, especially television news. But even a legacy media outlet like the Wall Street Journal, regardless of your political slant, we understand why this is being done. Like that's, I'm not going to make a point about it because my show goes on the YouTube. I'm not going to make that. I'm not going to give these writers a distinction or the satisfaction to go ahead and say why they're doing this. We know why. And for those of you, you can read between the lines, you realize what it is. It's regardless. But everything they do here continues to be leaked. The documents are never shown. We don't see, you could redact them and put them up on screen. To be journalists today, you have to give more evidence. You have to treat a story like you're putting together a court case. Because would this information hold up in court? What the auditors are doing right now of these independent counsels that are looking into this matter outside of the company and being allowed to look in the files here. Okay. That's from them. And I'm still waiting for them, those independent agencies, to come back with the findings of their investigation they're going to report to the public. Right? Give me the official's story. Not this hearsay, not this information where you're putting it out there and you continue to have all this information, but we don't see anything documented. How many times do we have to watch a story? We don't want to see the video splice. We want to see the raw video as it happens. Look at what happened recently with the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Somebody was able to put out there a 77-minute video to see everything that was going on at that school. Because that's what people want right now. With the access to technology, the media as we have it, the reporters are not doing the justice anymore for the public of actually reporting the story succinctly, summarily, because they want to make sure that you're getting tidbits of information to keep you hooked, to keep you subscribing, to keep you paying their paywalls and all those things like that, which, it's only going to go so far. And I'm sorry, Wall Street Journal, you can go ahead and put everything behind a paywall you want until you get a certain amount of audience that's responding to this story, and then you release the story as free. After you've gotten your money. Okay? So on the story here, Vince McMahon agreed to pay more than $12 million over the past 16 years to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. So no surprises going on. Originally it was $3 million. Now we know it's quadrupled. The payments were out to 4 women, all formerly affiliated with WWE, signed agreements, non-disclosure agreements with Mr. McMahon, prohibiting them from discussing potential legal claims against or the relationships with the 76-year-old executive. This is according to people familiar with the deals, as well as the documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. So this is their evidence, which we can't see. I would love to go and be able to say, okay, can you get the information about the documents, what they say? They're going to say what they're saying, right? But we can't actually see the documents. Why can't we? Pretty easy for you to go and put those documents up there, redact them, and make them available. You should have a legal team on this Wall Street Journal to be able to do that for you. I don't think it would be that hard for you to do that. Anyways, I'm sure a lot of people would actually read this story more if they could see that part. So, one was a $7.5 million pact with a former wrestler who alleged that Mr. McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex and then demoted her, ultimately declined to renew her contract in 2005 as she resisted further sexual encounters, according to people familiar with the matter. We don't know who these people are. And, is it in the NDA? Are you reading from the NDA itself? Are you actually quoting from it? Where are you getting this information from? And then the wrestler and attorney approached Mr. McMahon in 2018, negotiating the payment in return for her silence. So this also was being held over for 13 years. Now, it's just a payment for the payment. This is not anything including some kind of pain and suffering or any other, accrued damages or something like that, right? And some people are saying it could be Christy Hemme because of the way everything times out, which very well could be. And then there was a WWE contractor that presented the company with unsolicited nude photos of Mr. McMahon. She reported receiving from him, alleging that she had actually sexually harassed her on the job. And that was an agreement in the NDA of agreeing to pay her roughly $1 million. But we don't have any word. It's an unreported deal. These people said, by the way. So we're hearing the people said. These people said. I want more evidence. You're giving me just information that is hearsay in a court of law. Unless you can present the judge with actual documents, and if you can, the court of public opinion, you're expecting everybody to go in and just take your word as law, as fact, and expect that we just can't see anything else to prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like there has to be, we don't need to see the nude pictures, but show me the redacted NDAs. Show me something that shows here that you have the information, you have the documents, something. And if not that, by the way, I understand you can't get NDAs, right? But are you getting any of this from the investigation, the investigators, or you're still getting it from your leak? You're still getting it from your leak, aren't you? Aren't you, Ted, Joe, and Joe? You're getting it from your leak. And which person on behalf of the leaker is leaking on behalf of one of the board of directors? In an attempt to remove Vince from any sort of power and find a way to deem him incapable of holding on to the majority of shares of the company so that he has no choice but to be forced out. Which, by the way, 76-year-old Vince, he's not leaving. He's made it pretty clear. He's staying F you. He doesn't care. At this point, he doesn't care. He's doing what he wants with himself. Another agreement was a former manager who had worked 10 years for Mr. McMahon before he allegedly initiated a sexual relationship with her, paid $1 million to keep quiet about it. And then another $3 million hush pack, which we already talked about before. Okay. So we know about the other part, about the paralegal, where John Laurinaitis is brought into place. And by the way, let's see what we have here in the later part of the story. We're going to go down about what? So they have a picture in between. This is about what? 10 paragraphs down in the story. Let's get the other part where we can't get this here. Let's go ahead and see what we can get in terms of what they actually did find out. All those allegations were allegations. Okay? They could be very well true. I'm not disputing that. But the reports have no foundation to stand on. They might have been allegations. They might have been out there, but show me the proof. Show me the proof. Where's the beef? The Journal couldn't determine whether the board probe includes the non-disclosure agreements involving the contractor or the former manager, or how far back the investigation will go. A spokesperson for the board's independent directors declined to comment. Yeah, because you know what? They don't want these leeches to know about anything. The investigation is not completed yet. So they're telling Wall Street Journal, Fugazi, get away from us. Well, you'll know when everybody else knows. Okay? And as for WWE, let's talk about this. Okay. The company is cooperating with the board inquiry, according to a spokesperson with WWE. And so far, neither Mr. Laurinaitis nor an attorney for Mr. McMahon responded to requests for comment. Of course, they're not going to comment. And all they're getting is declined comments. Nobody's talking about this. Let the investigation go. But no, they can't help themselves. So they put out the first story back in June. Now, 3 weeks later, let's go ahead and go back after the story one more time. Because now they found out about the leak had to come out. Well, let's get the other allegations out there. Okay, this is what they're doing. So the investigation is being brought in. The first leak came out. They put a couple of stories out there, $3 million. Okay. And then what happened after that? It got some mainstream buzz. It got some people talking. Some people started getting, the rest of the community got all into a froth thinking, oh, we're going to get Vince out of here. 3 weeks later, investigation continues. Vince does step down. So they got a carrot. the first story got Vince to, under lawyer's discretion, step down as CEO, step aside. Remember, step back. He's not stepping down permanently. He could very well go right back up to being CEO and chairman again. And Stephanie retains that position right now, interim. So that was the one thing they got. That was the conquering that they got. The victory they got, the scalp. They got Vince off the board. They got Vince off as CEO. And what did he do? He laughed in their face. He went on TV a couple times just so he could be on TV, and he continues to do his creative work, and he continues to do what he does. So now these Wall Street Journal reporters, they're pissed. They're miffed. You know, they're constipated, sitting on their ass, you know, making phone calls all day and looking up Twitter feeds and, you know, waiting for this leaker to come back in with more information, who they're probably paying off. Okay? So when nothing was happening 3 weeks ago, after they got what they did, they want more because they can't help themselves. They're being put under directive. They're operatives. They want to be told, hey, you need to get Vince out of here. And then whoever this board of directors person, or whoever it is internally in WWE right now, leaking the information, leaked out more. They said, okay, tell them this. We need something else. Like they're talking to their source, right? They're one anonymous source who they cannot quote, whom the documents they cannot verify. Have we heard them corroborated and verified by the Wall Street Journal? Have they been done, or WWE, have they confirmed or corroborated? No. I'm not disputing that the information is true. I'm saying you didn't do your due diligence. You haven't corroborated, you haven't verified, you haven't given us sources that will go on the record and be quoted on what's going on. You didn't get that either. You got a friend of the paralegal that was in question here of the first hush payment that was leaked. 3 weeks later, here we are. Our editor needs more information. We can't stay on the story anymore. We got 3 weeks on doing this. They gave us more time, but like, we got to give them something else or else the story's going to die. And then we're not going to get Vince out. What are we going to do, leaker? So that's what happens here. And so they go on and they do this here and they say, okay, let's try to move along here. And by the way, we've heard nothing else from Jerry McDevitt about the fact of the claims of harassment against Mr. McMahon and that WWE did not pay any monies to the ex-employer on her departure. So we don't know anything about that the money came from WWE's finances. We don't know anything about that. If they were paid on the WWE payroll, we don't know that at all. No corroboration, no verification, nothing. The investigation by the board's outside counsel, Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, triggered a series of anonymous emails that directors received earlier this year. So this is the only thing that we have that is actual fact, okay? That there is an outside counsel of these anonymous emails that got leaked to the Journal. Okay, that's what we're doing right here. So there's already an investigation here going on. This is what's happening. There's nothing else going on with this. I'd rather wait. The Journal just wants to add fuel to the fire. They're adding kerosene. That's what they're going to do. They're gaslighting the situation. That's what they're doing. This is what journalists do now these days. This is what they have to do to keep their jobs. And if they want to do this story for their own agenda, their own narrative, to help other people, because obviously there's going to be some kind of payoff or something that they're going to get as a result of this. So if they keep doing this, they're going to say, oh, okay, something else is going to come good after that, because they're going to try to take Vince McMahon out. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy at the Wall Street Journal. These reporters are going to be responsible for trying to take down Vince, if they can do that. They might be held as heroes by the wrestling world that's been wanting to get Vince out, which, by the way, they're not going to understand the reason why this is why it's what it is. They just care about Vince being out of creative, but they don't care about the implications of the company overall. And by the way, whatever is going to happen, I don't think Nick Khan is the one that's personally trying to go and take out Vince here. I don't think that's the case. There's been so much being allowed here. Like, this power grab would be pretty crappy to do that. And I want to think, well, Nick Khan, there's a much better way to do this. Like, it wouldn't be pressure from the lawyers or from the Wall Street Journal. You want to put the pressure on the broadcast partners have to do that. This is where NBC Universal And Fox would have to confront Ms. McMahon, and that pressure would be taken out. But because of that, the broadcast partners, have they said anything? No. It's an internal investigation. It's a smear piece. As far as I'm concerned, the stock price continues to be where it is. I don't think it hurt that much in the first place. They're continuing to move along as they normally would. $63 right now. And if we go back, a month on their setup? Let's go back 3 months. So it was June 8th was when we had the issue with the issue with this right here. Well, guess what? The stock price never made a change. It's going up and down. It got back up June 7th. It'll be July 7th to $65. It's right now $63.08. But there's not been much change in terms of anything right now. It's just like it's down because everything else is down. So if you wanted to hurt the company, they're not so much worried about that because the investors are not worried about it. The broadcasters are not publicly worried about it. They're not making any comments about it. Nobody is. Wall Street Journal is on its own reporting this leaked information, which cannot be corroborated or validated. I will just repeat that over and over to make sure I make that point across, especially the transcript on the YouTube, so they can read this and make sure where I'm coming from with that. So they also followed up on the rest of the story here, and they went ahead and talked about that. Okay. And by the way, there's some interesting comments that were being made about this. I want to take a couple of these comments and make the point, because here's what people could talk about here, right? So where's the outrage from women's groups? Why hasn't the network broadcasting the shows canceled this contract? Why haven't advertisers been targeted for boycotts? Is it because he and his family are card-carrying Democrats? I'm sorry, but he is Republican. Vince McMahon was a supporter of Donald Trump. They're good friends. So, this one commenter was wrong about this, but anyway. A lady here, Deborah Leslie, writes, the wrestler and his attorney approached Mr. McMahon in 2018, negotiated the payment in return for her silence. The people said, hasn't this traditionally been known as extortion? And then another person writes back in that comment and says that Mr. McMahon could have reported the extortionists to law enforcement. However, there are drawbacks. Only Mr. McMahon knows why he chose not to do so. And then B.A. Byron writes here, it says, it's been a mistake for the Me Too movement to equate sexual harassment in the workplace as the same as women who have affairs with powerful men, then use that relationship to extort money while painting themselves as victims. The people most harmed by this are women who were actually victimized, but the kind of women who have had affairs with married men don't actually care about them. Thomas Lacey writes, why is this newsworthy, Wall Street Journal? This is not why we read this, I hope. Leave these stories in the New York Post and Entertainment Tonight and find something more suitable to fill this space. Got a lot of good comments about that, a lot of likes, which I'm actually right here. You know what it is too? Somebody writes here a good point and says, seriously, I thought I was reading the National Enquirer. The National Enquirer would be the kind of people that would report these stories, but they got taken out of business. And so there are still some outlets that, there used to be a thing where the supermarket tabloids were a thing, a couple decades ago. Weekly World News. Those kind of things were out there. And now all of a sudden, here we are, and the Wall Street Journal is doing the work the National Enquirer would have done. This is the kind of story National Enquirer would have reported back in the day. Because people want to know. And this is where journalism has gone, which is just another side story to everything else, which I could go along for hours talking about, but I'm not going to. I've made my point here. So it's the same thing over and over again. Chris David writes here and says, well, McMahon has always struck me as the Mr. Big type. Heck, I can't never understand in the Me Too era why CEOs spend millions buying the silence of on-balance sheet romances. Guys, ladies too, why pay the principal when you could keep on paying the premiums? I'm not a prune and adultery is none of my 10 commandments. The solution is keep the annuity going and keep them nicely employed forever. Lawsuits will be nada. So that's where they're going from with that. We're going to leave it all there. But I would not be surprised. The Wall Street Journal is going to be up against the wall right now. Joe Palazzo, Joe Flint, and Ted Mann, they're stuck right now. Because what are they going to have next? Because you know what? when this news story came out, very few outlets decided to pick it up. So what's left? There's no teeth to this story right now. Not until the investigation is concluded. We don't know when that's going to be, but that doesn't work on the timeline or the schedule for Wall Street Journal. They need to have something else to report on to continue this story because they can't afford to keep going on the story. So this story could just die, and we'll never hear anything else from these guys again about it. Unless there's something else to leak. But what are they going to do? Leak more allegations? They have to now go after the people to see if they'll break their NDAs in order to take Vince down. That's the next step for the Wall Street Journal. These reporters have to get somebody on the record to talk. So if Christy Hemming's not doing anything right now, listen, she's got millions of dollars. Even when she was with TNA, she don't have to talk. She doesn't have to do anything. She can be accessed. If there are others that are out there that will talk and give their story, that's the only way this continues to go forward. That's the only way to get Vince down is if somebody comes up and actually will go on the record and can be interviewed exclusively about this. Because all this leaked information is not going anywhere. You know why? Because journalism is dead. That's where things are right now. There's no other way to get around this anymore. So Wall Street Journal has to do something else. They've done a second long expose on this. They put that leaked information out. No corroboration, no validation, no proper sourcing, making all the mistakes that other journalists do out there, which was acceptable by the National Enquirer, and they used to get sued all the time. And when I have not heard anything from the legal counsel for Jerry McDevitt or just anybody, any lawyers that are part of this right now, and they're not saying anything, everything is mute on the other side. Wall Street Journal, I'm telling you, you better do something here or you're going to get hit with this lawsuit. There will be a lawsuit coming back after you. You can bet on it. You can bet on it once this is all done. So there we go. All right, some other headlines to go and talk about real quick. AEW Dynamite tonight, good stuff. I didn't talk about the fact that Wardlow became the TNT champion and he had a good defense against Orange Cassidy. That was good stuff tonight. Swerve in Your Glory, now the new tag team champions. That's great stuff too. Moxley and Takeshita. By the way, that Takeshita is fantastic. That guy is really good. I'm surprised we even got him on AEW Dark when we did. But those guys really cranked it up. Good stuff on Dynamite tonight. Everything's working out really well for All Out coming up going forward. And the Now Arena will host 3 nights of wrestling coming up to Labor Day weekend. So September 2nd for Dynamite, September 4th for Rampage, and then September 6th for All Out. We'll have all that coming up. Tickets for all 3 events going up this Friday at 10 a.m. Central. CM Punk is expected to be back in time so that we can have Jon Moxley and CM Punk for the undisputed AEW World Championship. Oh, excuse me. August 31st for Dynamite. September 2nd for Rampage. September 4th for All Out. There we go. So that's good stuff all together. So let's go and talk about Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor coming up next weekend. Lowell, Massachusetts, the Songa Center. 4 matches already been announced so far. The Ring of Honor Women's World Title, Mercedes Martinez versus Serena Deeb. The Ring of Honor TV title, Samoa Joe against the longest reigning TV champion, Jay Lethal. FTR and the Briscoes, and a rematch for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. Another classic I'm sure we're going to get. And Daniel Garcia is going to go up against Wheeler Yuta for the Pure Championship. Those 4 matches already scheduled and ready to go. Fantastic. SummerSlam's already set up. Probably need a few more matches to be set up. We still haven't heard anything about where Logan Paul and The Miz are going to be set up yet. There's even talk that Jake Paul might get brought into the mix for WWE right now. Hell, they're trying to get Cardi B to come in and train to be a wrestler. All this kind of stuff going on. Like, it's funny. You know, all these things going on. Now, so far for SummerSlam, July 30th, so we're almost 2 weeks away. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the Undisputed Universal Championship last man standing match with a great promo, by the way, between Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. Like the first 15 minutes were really good. And actually, Theory stood out very well on Raw this week to put out his information and to also take that little nugget of being thrown off the top of the pod at the Elimination Chamber back in February to bring that up as well. I like that story. It's so cohesive. It's so good. And to see where Theory could be coming in here, it's a great story. It's a nice wrinkle to have into a story we've already seen before with Roman and Lesnar one more time. So now Theory can be brought in here and could sneak in and sneak away from Nissan Stadium as a new Undisputed World Heavyweight Champion or the World Universal Champion. Awesome. I like all that. Liv Morgan Ronda Rousey rematch for the SmackDown Women's title. We haven't seen what's going to happen with Bianca Belair yet, but I imagine they'll find somebody for her to take on for SummerSlam, wherever they're going to set that up. Bobby Lashley and Theory, U.S. title, will be on the line in a rematch. Usos Street Profits one more time with a special guest referee. And Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. So we still got to wait for Miz and Logan Paul. What's going to be set up for that? Will the IC title be put on the line? Will Gunther have an opponent? Probably not, because I haven't set anything up with him yet. And the Raw Women's title. Are they going to set anything up with that as well? So they still got a few more matches to add. They haven't done it yet. We'll wait and see what they decide to come up with. But they got a lot of matches so far on the card. And more than anything else is a setup for Ric Flair's last match. I'm going to keep saying it over and over. This is fantastic. We get a little bit of legacy. We get a lot of great young stars and some real dream matches coming up on this pay-per-view. $34.99. So it's not a bad price. I'll give it that for as well. That's pretty good stuff. So we have a legacy match being added now to the lineup. And by the way, this Ric Flair's last match event is a Jim Crockett promotion sponsored event. Incredible. So David Crockett doing the JCP Control Center, that Hall of Famer Ricky Morton and his son Kerry will take on Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson. I mean, come on, man. That's just fantastic. So yeah, it's kind of members of the Horsemen. So Brock Anderson, and by the way, Arn Anderson will be accompanying Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson down to the ring for that match. That's just awesome. Oh, by the way, let me not forget, the father and son duo will be represented by the Rock and Roll Express, and Robert Gibson will be in their corner as well. And Arn Anderson will be in Pillman and Anderson's corner, representing the Four Horsemen. That's just, I mean, the all that right there. And by the way, if you have not been watching NWA Power, like NWA is really good. I'm really enjoying what they're doing right now. In just terms of certain stars they have over there. Like, I really do like everything going on right now. You know, listen, they got Nick Aldis. He's great. Trevor Murdoch is great. These big Haas heavyweights they got in here with AJ Kazana or Jack Stane or Tyrus. Like, they got some big mastodons in there working in those matches there, and just an old school feel to it all together. It's good stuff. And some good women's wrestling over there when you got Kenzie Page, Ella Envy, of course Camille, without any question, among others they have as well. And Chelsea Green, others that are in there as well. It's good stuff. Now, still no word about who Ric Flair will face or if it will be in a tag team match that night. We still don't know anything about it. And they did move the event from the fairgrounds to the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee during StarCast 5 weekend. And so we don't know how big how many people are going to show up for this pay-per-view, but it's going to be pretty big. I mean, they should do really, really well. So we know that Ric Flair will have his last match to close the night for sure. But the rest of the card is just awesome. Impact World Title match. Josh Alexander, among all people in this, it's not even an exhibition match. The world title for the Impact is on the line. Jacob Fatu, the Samoan Werewolf, against walking weapon Josh Alexander. I mean, that's just a dynamite match. I mean, like, I never thought we would get that match. And to see some of these MLW stars working together is also just awesome, man. Impact Knockouts World Title Triple Threat match. Deonna Purrazzo versus Rachel Ellering versus Jordan Grace. That's another great match, and Deonna Purrazzo could steal it away. You never know. Impact Wrestling match. Motor City Machine Guns against the American Wolves. This is good stuff, man. There's some really, really great matches, and these are all established seasoned superstars here. A featured MLW match, Killer Cross against Davey Boy Smith Jr., which Davey Boy Smith is actually an NWA guy, but they're saying MLW because it'll be like the fact that Davey Boy Smith is kind of coming back into the fold here, being part of Heart Foundation, and, you know, the change there. A AAA Fatal 4-Way, Bandito, Black Taurus, Laredo Kid, Ray Phoenix. I mean, come on. Come on. What a hell of a match, man. Then you got a featured New Japan Pro Wrestling match with Ren Narita and Clark Connors. So you have the Dojo stars that are coming into this place. An Impact MLW Interpromotional match. The Briscoes and the Von Erichs. I mean, you can't ask for better than this, man. What a card. It's incredible. And I can't wait to talk about that and watch this show. Like, I mean, there's just the card, when you just read it, it looks like an A- already. I just don't know. I mean, and here's the thing too. The pressure for Ric Flair and the kind of match he has to have to overcome, like, they really put together a very solid card leading up to Ric Flair's last match. So that last match, when he's in there in the match and Ric Flair, you know, the expectations for him, he's not doing a 60-minute Broadway at 73 years old, but he's going to have to go a little bit, be able to make this match count, whatever match is going to be. Like, I guess you'd have to bring in some other people that might come into play that might work this show. I mean, we already know Chris Jericho did a promo out there and talking about, you know, living legends and all, and Ric Flair shot back a promo back at him, which could have been very much a work. And who knows if Chris Jericho and Ric Flair might work with each other. I don't know who it's going to be, but they're keeping it under wraps. We don't know who Ric Flair is going to take on, but that match is going to happen anyways. But no matter what happens with the Ric Flair last match anyway, the rest of the card, give me that. Like, I would be totally satisfied paying $34 for the card they're giving me without the Ric Flair last match. Like, the Ric Flair's last match is secondary to everything else they put on this card. If you had to make me, like, figure out who do I want to see in these matches, Fatu and Alexander, that I'm, like, all over for that match. I am so excited for that. The triple threat for the Knockouts World title, that is massive. And then the Briscoes and Von Erichs, another massive match. And then you give me the Fatal 4-Way with the AAA stars, the Luchadors, massive. And let me tell you, another match that people cannot be sleeping on. There's something about Ricky Morton out there, man. Still working with his son, Kerry, the future legend, by the way. And you know that you're going to have Arn and Robert Gibson probably have to go tete-a-tete in here. Something's going to happen with those stars. And I'm wondering who's going to have to work heel and who's going to work babyface. Because the Mortons are going to have to work babyface, which means Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson with Arn, they're going to have to come out kind of heelish, I would imagine. So that's where I see things going for all together. I'm just, man, this is so good. I can't wait for it, man. This is such a good card. I can't believe I was going to be so excited for this card, but I don't know if anybody else is talking about it, but I am. I am so amped up for Ric Flair's last match event. This is massive. And I really hope Jim Crockett Promotions, whoever's putting this card together, did a fantastic job, masterful job to put this show together. For an independent show, it's almost as good as All In before AEW came into play. It's almost that good. This is like, to me, this is better than what Ring of Honor did under Sinclair. Like, definitely better. The interpromotional with New Japan stars, AAA stars, Impact, and MLW stars. MLW is getting a great showcase here. Are they going to get a chance to take any of these matches at all and run with them? I mean, come on. I'm just telling you, listen. If Jacob Fatu won the Impact World title, it wouldn't cease to amaze me. I'm totally in if they decide to do that. If Jacob Fatu became the Impact World Champion, I am all in. I think it would make some good headlines. I really would. And you know what? Give me that rematch at Bound for Glory. So even if Fatu's only there for a little bit, give me that rematch at Bound for Glory and let those guys go at it for 3 months. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Bring it on. Anyway, that's the show tonight. I'm all amped up and excited, man. Like I said, we will be doing post shows. And so remember, coming up on the 23rd of July, we will have Ring of Honor Step Before Dishonor. I will do a post show for that night. I will also do a post show at the end of July, the 2 nights where SummerSlam is on Saturday night and Ric Flair's last match event on Sunday night. I will be doing post shows for both of those shows individually, because Ric Flair's last match gets its own show, and I will have a lot to say about that. I can't wait to talk about it, man. One of the most anticipated cards of King of Podcast Wrestling this year, and I hope some of you feel the same way. Anyway, thanks for listening in, finding the show. Come back next week for the Wrestling Goes Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.